This Torah class is brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.
Okay, Bruchim Abayim. Welcome everybody. We're continuing in our series on Tefilla, Gateway to Tefilla. We just finished Haidu. Now we move on to the next part of davening, Mizmor L'Soida. This year is sponsored by our dear friend, Rabbi Rose, Le'iloi Nitzvach, Le'iloi Nishmas, Rabbi Tzal's brother, Tzvi ben Levi Yitzchak, his neshama, Shehaven Aliyah. If anybody would like to participate in our Sefer on Bereshis, we are Be'ezus Hashem, imminently going to print. It is still available. Mizmor L'Soida. Interestingly, Mizmor L'Soida is the 100th chapter of Tehillim. It is a song of Haidah. What's its place over here? Think about it. Well, we learned 2 weeks ago that actually we just committed ourselves to sing Shira to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. We said, V'ani b'chaz l'chavatachti, yagel li bi b'shuasach, Ashir al Hashem, I will sing to God. So no, let's go. Let's get going. You said you're going to sing. You made a neder. So, the al ta'acheres nidroi. In fact, the Shulchan Aruch says in Siman Nun Aleph, Mizmor L'Soida yesh l'amra b'negina, you should sing it with a tune. Right? Reb Josh, we're working on trying to get the tune for Tehillim. I have a few good leads. But Tehillim has a tune, you should say it b'negina. Shekol hashiroi sasidos libatel chutz mi Mizmor L'Soida. All the songs will ultimately become batel except for Mizmor L'Soida. So this is a shira. In fact, this is going to be the most enduring shira of all the various shirais. And therefore, one should say it standing. Now, interesting. So we've just accepted upon ourselves to sing Shira, which we do with Mizmor L'Soida. Mizmor L'Soida is the 100th parak of Tehillim. The word Moedim, think about the gematria of Moedim. Mem is 40, Vav is 6, 46, Dal is 4, 50, Yud, 60, Mem, another 40, 100. No wonder then why Mizmor L'Soida is parak Kuf, 100. The gematria of Moedim is 100. Now, Reb Schwab is bothered by the following question. Mizmor L'Soida, as Rashi says over here, was a song of Taida, for Haidah, la'oimrei al zivchei Taida, to say when you bring a carbon Taida. So when would somebody bring a carbon Taida? If they were let out of prison, or if they crossed a desert, or if they crossed a sea, or if they were cured. Okay, so it's a song to be sung when you bring a carbon. So then Mizmor L'Soida should be in the parsha of Karbanos. What's it doing over here? It doesn't belong here. It should be in the parsha of Karbanos. So Reb Schwab says, HaMizmor hazeu echad min ha'eser mizmorim shechibra Moshe Rabbeinu. First of all, you need to know who composed Mizmor L'Soida. It was composed by Moshe Rabbeinu. As the Gemara says in Baba Basra, from Perak Tzadi to Perak Kuf, was composed by Moshe. V'nisyased l'shiras halavim b'shas hakravas carbon taida. And it was established as the song of the Levium at the time of the hakravas carbon taida. Therefore, some have a minhag to say this mizmar standing, similar to the chiyuv ha'amida when you're makriv a carbon, like in the Amiras Parshas HaTamid. In other words, the same way when you say the Parshas HaTamid, you should stand. There are many who are noyeg to stand during Mizmor L'Soida. I believe I stand. I stand for Mizmor L'Soida. Why do we stand for Mizmor L'Soida? Because it's a shear for a carbon. At the time that one is makriv a carbon for one of the 4 people who have to give Haidah, in Mizmor Kuf Zayin, like Chazal explained in Brachos, who has to give Haidah? Someone who traveled the sea, someone who walked through a midbar, one who is sick, and one who is in jail. By the way, the Rishonim say, the remez is, V'chol hachayim yoidu chasela, all the living will thank Hashem. Chayim stands for Choyle, Yisurim, Yam, Midbar. You know that? Chayim are those who have to thank Hashem. And we've explained many times, the definition of life is gratitude to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. V'al elu ha'arba yesh chiyav lahavi carbon taida. So nowadays there's no Beis HaMikdash, so we, instead of bringing a carbon taida, we bench goimel. We say, ha-goimel l'chayavim toivos shegemalani kol toiv. Now, why do these four people have to thank Hashem? Because they were all in a clearly dangerous situation. Says the Eon Tefilla, Rabbi Schwab. Says, but did he have a uvda? I myself experienced something like this when I was traveling to Israel in the year 1936, and there was a big storm. The waves took me up to the sky and down to the abyss. And the ship was shaking like a drunkard, and I was mamish lo yalechem in besakana. I had hold on to the poles, the iron handles, for about 20 hours straight without letting go so as not to fall out of the boat. Not only that, it was such a dangerous time. Otherwise, I was in danger of being thrown off the boat. I could not put on tefillin that day, says Reb Schwab. He literally was holding on for his life. And he got to Haifa, and he benched Goimo with Kavana Atzuma. Likewise, by the way, he says, someone who comes out of jail, it doesn't mean only someone who's in actual jail. What about if somebody was held hostage? Or someone who's lost in the desert, or someone who is sick? All of these people are in a obvious sakana, and they have to give hoidah to Hashem for the miracle that happened to him. And not only these people, but anyone whose life was in danger and Hashem saved them has to be makriv a carbon taida. Now, we find an inyan miyuchad by carbon taida that someone who's makriv is chayiv to bring his zavach 4 kinds of bread. In other words, when you bring a carbon taida, you have to bring 4 kinds of breads, 40 altogether. 3 kinds of matzah, from chalois matzahs, rikike matzahs, revuchim shal matzahs, 10 of each, and then 10 chalois. So 30 matzah, 10 chametz. Why is that? Interesting idea, listen to this. Matzah represents the miraculous. We eat matzah on Pesach to commemorate miracles. Chametz represents ordinary. And God always wants, whenever we thank Him for the supernatural, we should also thank Him for the natural. So someone who is chayiv to bring a carbon taida and thank Hashem for the miraculous salvation, it's not enough to bring matzah. He doesn't just thank Hashem for the miraculous. It should trigger his mind that the fact that he has food and the fact that he breathes and his heart beats and his blood circulates, that's also miraculous. As Ramban famously writes at the end of Parshas Boy, Min hanisim hagluyim v'ha-meforsamim adam moide benisim nestarim. The purpose of the miraculous is to recognize the natural. And therefore, when someone is chayiv to bring makriv a carbon taida, he doesn't just bring matzah, but he brings chametz as well. V'tziva HaKadosh Baruch Hu, sheksha'anu moidim la'HaKadosh Baruch Hu ala nisim hagluyim, kagoin b'kanes ha'adam la'matzav sakana, v'nitzo himeno, az noida lo yisbarach, gam an the nisim shabachol yom imanu. Sheva emes. The truth is, really a person should bench goimel every single day. That Hashem helps him and strengthens him in his brios without any machala. V'lo nosan lamoid ragloi. God doesn't allow us to falter. Ela shaloi tukan chiyuv hoida meyuchad al ta'aluchos hachayim haragilos. It's just that they were not misakein a specific hoida for the regular, ordinary benefits that God gives us. However, at the time when a person sees openly the miraculous hand of Hashem, and then a person is chayiv to awaken and to recognize even the natural. And therefore, together with the 30 loaves of matzah, we also bring 10 breads of chametz. Now, since there was chametz in the lachmei taida, we don't say Mizmor said on Pesach, and we don't say it on any other time that we can't eat the lachamim, for example, Erev Pesach or Erev Yom HaKippurim, where we don't have enough time to eat the breads, likewise on Shabbos and Yom Tov. Now, here's the $1 million question, and that is, what in the world is the carbon toida doing here? Why is the carbon toida? Why is the shira of the carbon toida put in Mila Psuke de Zimra? It should be in karbanos. Amnam yesh lahavin. Kiven she'amir zu b'makam carbon toidahi lama loy amir Mizmor seh before Psuke de Zimra by the Parshas HaTamid or at the end of the Tefilla by the Shiur Shel Yom. So says Reb Schwab, we could explain based on Vayikra Rabbah. La'asid lavai, all the karbanos will be batal, except for the carbon toida. The carbon toida will not be batal. That is, all the karbanos yachid will be batal. Why will all the karbanos yachid be batal? Because Hashem will remove the ruach tumah, and there won't be a yetzer hara, and there won't be a carbon chatas, and there won't be a carbon asham, and there will be no need to bring nadar and nadavais, like it says in Koheles, Toiv asher lo sidar mishetidar v'lo sishaleim. U'chameisha amar hanavi. The Navi said, I don't need all your karbanos. So except for the carbon oila, eila su'iyah, and shamei chagiga, there won't be any karbanos that yechidim bring, except for a carbon taida. And in fact, in the Medrash it says, Kol hatfila is la'asilave batlua v'ha'idaya ina batla. In la'asilave, all the prayers will be batal, except for haida. So we're not going to have to daven for refuah la'asilave. We're not going to have to daven for the binyan beis hamikdash la'asilave, except for haida. Because ba'olam hazeh, for every tzara, we feel tsar. But if everything goes as planned, without any tzara, so we don't have any distress, we will recognize b'payal how everything Hashem does is chesed, and all these tefillos will become batal, and all the carbon of nadars will become batal, except for haida, we will recognize that every footstep and every movement we take is the chesed of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Now, this is pretty amazing. Chazal say, bring all the masar to the Beis HaOitzar. Bring your masar to the storehouse. You could test me with this. If I don't open up the windows of the heavens, by the way, the Chafetz Chaim learns from here that it says, Havios kol hamasar beis ha'oitzar, v'yehei teref bevesi, so there should be food in my house. From which the Chafetz Chaim learns that since the purpose of Maser was to support Levium, the Iker use of Meiser money should be to support Loimdei Torah. Because it says in the Pasuk, V'yeh teref bevesi, so all the tzedakos are ahuvim, berurim, kedoshim, but support of Limud Torah is paramount. Now Hashem promises, if you do that, ad belidai, my ad belidai, ad sheyivlu sifsoisechem ilamar dai. Your lips will wear out saying dai. So Reb Schwab asked the question, I must say I never thought of this question. He says, why would anyone's lips get worn out saying dai? You don't move your lips when you say dai. Die, 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 die. You don't actually move your lips saying die. It should have said ad sheyivlu lishoinechem. Maybe you move your tongue, da 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 da, or your palate, or your teeth. But the one thing you don't move, die, 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 is your lips. You could say, says Reb Schwab, experiment, say die 1,000 times, you won't feel anything. Because daled comes from the tongue. He says it could be that when a person's b'tzara, they say vai. Oh, vai, vai, vai. And when they were b'tzara, they got worn out saying vai. And the Navi says, days are coming that Hashem will remove from you the moaning, and your lips will not get worn out from saying vai. But instead of saying vai, you'll say dai because of all the great brachos. If Dalit would have made use of the lips, you would have got it worn out saying dai. Now this is what it means, all the tefillos will be batal. Chutz me'eder shenemar tamid dai. will be always saying, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. And therefore, regarding this Zman, regarding the La'asad Lavai, Moshe Rabbeinu said the Mizmor L'Saida, because then it will be a constant stream of gratitude. The Ikar Haida will be La'asad. The only thing is, even in this world, when things are good, and when a person is saved, they experience that flash of lightning, they also show gratitude to Hashem. The bottom line is, the carbon taida is different than all the other karbanos. All the other karbanos are specifically for this world. The carbon taida is for la'asad lavai. And therefore, since the purpose of this carbon is very different than all the other karbanos, and it's for la'asad lavai, the Mesadrei Tefilla gave it its own distinctive location, namely as part of Psukkah de Zimra, and it is not located earlier as part of the karbanos, as it is fundamentally different than all the other karbanos. Okay, so this was our introduction to Mizmor L'Saida. And again, Mizmor says fulfillment of our pledge, Shiur Hashem, Ki Gam Alalai. And Be'ezus Hashem, in coming weeks, there's still a lot to discuss about Mizmor L'Saida. But until then, may the Rebbeinu Shalom always be mashpia on you. Shefa, bracha, v'atzlacha. You shouldn't have any tsar, v'yagoin, v'anacha, me'ata v'yad olam. Wishing everyone a wonderful Shabbos. Bracha v'atzlacha. Kol tov. Kol tov. Bye-bye.
You've just experienced another Torah class brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.